Chuck and Chris Show.
With Christopher German and Chuck Edson. Coming to you from Klamath County, Oregon. Now, without further ado, here's your hosts, Chuck Edson and Chris German.
All right, welcome to the first episode, the premiere episode, as it were, of the Chris and Chuck Show. Or is it Chuck and Chris Show?
Well, you say Chris and Chuck, I say Chuck and Chris.
Well, okay. Well, we'll figure that out in post-edit. But in any case, the point of the matter is that we are now, we're changing things up here. We're calling a bit of an audible, and we're going to do a podcast. Mostly because right now Oregon's at a crossroads in a lot of ways. We're adopting, or we're not adopting, we may adopt, who knows what's going to happen, ranked choice voting. And Chuck, my co-host here, has got a phenomenal amount of ideas about the way politics should work. And so we're trying to fit all of those ideas, and we thought, what better way to do that than to put it into a podcast? And
right.
he reads all kinds of books. He's an absolute paragon when it comes to understanding political theory.
Okay, let me interrupt you there, Chris. I have a few ideas of my own, hardly any. I got a lot of ideas that come from the likes of Catherine Gill and Michael Porter in this book, The Politics Industry, that we want to review today. But there are other sources of other innovations in politics that we want to make a theme of what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I have a political science degree from the University of Connecticut. I've also worked for a Republican governor in my past history, and I've got a little bit of a passion for politics. So what we're going to do is we're going to digest these books. We're going to digest these concepts for you, and we're going to talk about them in hopefully a very relaxed and very conversational manner, because quite frankly, we don't talk about politics enough, do we, Chuck?
No, we don't. That's I think really something that an unfortunate kind of zeitgeist or whatever in our country, or maybe the world, that people are afraid to talk about politics. It's forbidden. It's a taboo subject because we've been taught we have to argue about it. Ancient Greeks thought argument was great. Now we think of it as a fight. Anyway, we need to learn how to discuss these things and hear reasons from both sides, because both sides have good reasons and both sides have passions that if we control them a little bit, we could learn a lot from each other.
Yeah, and if you see this guy behind us, this is Kiva Sugarman. If you're not from the Klamath Falls area, because we're broadcasting from the heart of Klamath Falls, the Klamath River Basin here in Oregon, and Kiva Sugarman was a prominent figure in this town back in the day. And one of the things that he was really big on was opening up politics to everybody. He came to a town that had the KKK, and he was a Jewish man when he first got here. And he fought all of those things, and he became a prominent man in this town. And so we have named this studio the Kiva's Corner Studio. And this was originally Kiva's Corner, the not-for-profit. And quite frankly, it's just all done with his blessing, I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure. I commune with him on a regular basis. And his motto, "I ain't mad at nobody," is pretty well known here in Klamath Falls. And Klamath Falls is the heart of Klamath County, Klamath Basin, as Chris mentioned. He also said that we're calling an audible, which I think is really an apt way to put it, that this is the first of our audio podcasts. We've have a number of video podcasts under the name of Kiva's Corner, with various conversations and other discussions and presentations of other books.
And quite frankly, I mean, we've had moderate success, but we're looking for more success, because quite frankly, one of the things we're trying to do is get people to discuss politics. Because quite frankly, in this county here, we've got some very, very conservative people. We've got some very, very liberal people, and they don't talk to each other very well at all, do they?
Yeah, well, that's not just Klamath County. If you're listening from anywhere in the world, you know it's almost certainly true of your area too, unless you're listening from Russia or something, or China or North Korea. But throughout the Western world of democracy, Central America, everywhere. We're afraid to talk to each other because we don't have help in moderating it or mediating conversations. And there is lots and lots of evidence that we don't hear about where it works well. You got to keep some extremely passionate people out, but most 90+% of people can manage their conversations well and come to constructive consensus.
And Chuck says that this is going to be an audio podcast, but it's also going to be a video podcast because we're going to be putting our feed out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you will, please. And then hopefully we're going to get this going up on community television, Klamath Community Television. It's a streaming channel that we're trying to get launched on Roku, and eventually, hopefully, we'll get that working, but we don't have that quite yet, so we're just going to do what we can right now.
Yeah, and I hope to do a podcast or a video podcast on this channel, too, that gets into some interpersonal political mediation, and we're not talking about that today, but just as a note for the future.
So what the purpose of this podcast is going to be discuss politics because we have passions. We're all passionate about politics. Everybody, whether they admit it or not, has got some kind of passion about what's happening in the political world, but we don't like to talk about it. And then we have this reason thing. What's going on with reason?
Well, yeah, just a reason by bringing reason into the passion, too. By reason, just calming oneself down, not... And just agreeing to some rules, agreeing to listen to one another, agree to take care to make sure we understand how people mean terms, what they mean by certain words, and what their experiences are that ground them in their beliefs. We understand each other a lot better. We can talk a lot better, and we can come up with consent or consensus of the governed, as our nation is intended.
Yes. But before we do anything else, let's talk about this book. And I'm going to grab it from you for
sure.
if I can. It's called The Politics Industry, and this is a Catherine Gell book.
Mm-hmm.
She worked with Michael Porter to put this book out, and she's got a phenomenal YouTube channel. She's got all kinds of videos out there. If you want to find more information about her, you want to check this book out. But ultimately, Chuck has been reading a lot of her work, and he's pretty good in explaining it to the world. And quite frankly, I think what we should do is we should have a conversation about this.
Sure. First of all, the book is cross-political, I guess you could say. It's I'm not sure how either one is registered to vote, but both of them, it's fair to say, are economically quite conservative. Catherine Gell ran a family cheese business, $250 million a year industry, a business which she sold because she was so frustrated with American politics, and created her own private foundation called Institute of Political Innovation. And this book is divided into two sections about competition and innovation. And we'll cover the first third or so of the book today, I hope. Michael Porter is an economist, a professor at Harvard, and his expertise is in economic strategy and competition. So these are pretty conservative perspectives. Gell says that she's politically homeless, and the book is quite critical of American political parties. Best I can tell, she attacks both right and left, Republicans and Democrats, equally.
And just so you know, this is going to be a 3-episode, maybe 4-episode series of podcasts. So we got at least a month worth of listening pleasure for you if you want to listen this thing on repeat. We hope you will. But let's get into this thing and let's start talking about what has this book taught you, Chuck.
Well, it taught me something I already knew, I guess, which is I didn't know this. She made it clear that our conflict that is amplified so much by social media is also adopted by our political parties. And it didn't take algorithms to prove this to us on social media, but algorithms is like artificial intelligence taking responsibility and automatically getting us divided and divisive and in conflict, because human beings, we love conflict. You watch any series on Netflix, it's competition, it's conflict, it's the hero and the bad guy. That's the way human beings have always been, and hopefully always are passionate about this stuff.
So you're saying that Gell says that the social media and the way it amplifies our feelings about politics, that's the guilty party here? Is that
we're all
part of the guilty party? Anyway?
Yeah, it's because conflict sells, and being the good guy versus then the enemy out there is what human evolution's all about, and algorithms, automation has taken this over, and we can say it wasn't my party that did it. I mean, it's the social media and the algorithms. And, oh, by the way, we're making a lot of money on this. We're selling a lot of our products. So, yeah, it's what works.
And I think our listeners would understand that, you don't get a pure, unadulterated look at the way the world looks if you look at social media. You largely, you get the interpretation that everybody around you is having wonderful lives and they're enjoying every moment of their life, and you just feel kind of lost because you're not as special or fancy.
Your tribe is being screwed over by that other tribe.
Yeah,
and the emperor will save you. Whatever. It's a Democratic Party and whatever. I mean.
And we all have those senior members of our family that sit in their house and they play on the computer late at night, and they get these weird ideas about politics. They get these weird things.
I'm taking this personally, Chris.
Well, you should take it personally because you spend a lot of time late at night playing on the internet as well.
No, I watch those conflict series on Netflix at night.
But yeah, so, I mean, but that's exactly it's if you look at the way the demographics are breaking down, especially in this election, a lot of the Trump voters are senior. There a lot of them are older people, and quite frankly, that's one of the reasons why a lot of the Gen Xers and younger are not big fans of Donald Trump, is because he is quite old. He's going to be the oldest. If he gets elected, he's going to be the oldest president to ever sit in the White House.
He's a year younger than I am.
Well, you're not president either, are you?
But no, nor would I ever be anyway.
But I mean, that's the point is that our political feelings get amplified by this echo chamber of social media around us. And quite frankly, if you spend a lot of time on internet, you're going to spend a lot of time getting some pretty weird ideas.
Right, that your side is good and the other side is bad, and therefore you really need to support the leader of your side. And your empire will take over and oppress the other side. I don't want to be part of the oppressor or the oppressed, definitely. But yeah, so there are many examples of it. The authors make a point of what they call duopoly, and it's where it looks like there's competition going on, and at one level there sort of is, like maybe between Ford and Chevy, or Samsung and Apple, or something else, or Microsoft and whatever, or Google, but if somebody else tries to come in to compete in that field, then Google and Samsung are going to, or whatever, or Apple and Samsung, they're going to cut their prices and or buy up if somebody comes in with an innovation, they'll make them an offer that the new guy can't afford to turn down, and so they take in the new innovations and make them their own, so there's no real competition that way. And if somebody comes in with another search engine or something, Google will just overpower them.
But that's really the American political system. That's the American way of doing things. Ford, back in the day, they bought up all of the first designs of water-driven cars, and I mean they literally, and Edison did it as well. He sunk so many people because he was trying to push to get his 120 volt project working.
Well, I
and
think
stuff
you
like
said water driven. Yeah, steam.
No,
anyway.
steam driven cars.
Steam
but-
driven. Yeah, steam driven. Anyway.
But I
and,
mean, but
electric,
that's
yeah.
the American way of doing it. And
Yeah.
if our politics are doing it now, why is that a problem?
Well, it's a problem because in America, most democracies have parliaments, several parties where compromises can be made and different coalitions can be formed. I don't know if I've really. We need to do something different, I think, in this country, and I don't know what it is, but I think if we got our minds together as the public, apart from the political two-party system, we could come up with something a lot better. So I've jumped way ahead into the innovation two or three podcasts ahead, but that's the grist of stuff that I've been learning about and thinking about and bringing ideas from different sources together. And a lot of people are doing this. There's a lot of new ideas being floated around, but you don't hear about them unless they fit into the paradigm of the two parties and this and that. So there are a lot of ideas are just not considered in the American public.
And for example, Maine has already done a ranked choice voting system. Alaska is going to do a referendum on their ranked choice voting
Let me
system.
interrupt you and say those are like non-entities in American politics. But good point.
But the point is that it's happening, and Oregon's now taking it on as well. And your feelings, you're not even shy about telling your feelings about what is the chances of the ranked choice voting measure going to is it going to happen here? Do you think?
I'm definitely going to fail in any rural counties. Already, a headline came out someplace that rural county electoral officials have their concerns about it. Well, nobody, I think, the public doesn't know about alternative election systems.
Well, they've done a lousy job of marketing it. They say it's going to be the simpler system and it's going to be more democratic and whatnot, but they haven't explained to anybody how it works. And quite frankly, unless you're sitting in Portland and you're
Lane County,
but here in Klamath County, they don't tell us anything about it. They just expect us to vote for it. And so they've done no marketing out in the on the rural counties of the world. So rural county, and quite frankly, ranked choice voting doesn't really work for Republican voters.
Well, it doesn't.
A lot of ways.
Doesn't work very well anyway, in my opinion. It's better than plurality voting. We're again reaching into the next episode or two down the road, but plurality voting, the system that we always have used and are using in Oregon, which is if there are four candidates running and one could win with 26%. So which is
what has been happening in American politics, which is why nobody really believes their vote matters.
Right, and in the
because
primaries,
only 30% of the population really votes, and of that, most of those people vote for one candidate, which gets you less than 20% of the vote, but that wins the office. So that takes the competition, and that takes the reason for them doing good stuff out of the equation, because quite frankly, they're not going to fight really hard to win 20% of the vote.
Gell and Porter, this book really attacks primary elections. And we're getting ahead of ourselves here again, but primary elections, only like 10% of the voters on each side vote. And obviously the major candidates every time will be those chosen by the Republican and Democratic Party, supported by those parties and all the infrastructure those two parties have in the way of voter data, in the way of media support, major funders. This is the duopoly argument of Gell and Porter, that this is the way that our two-party system maintains control, and it's also enhanced and put into effect through the primary system.
Yeah, and if you're
closed primary system.
If you were a fan of Jill Stein, or if you're a fan of RFK Jr., or you're a friend of any of the third-party candidates,
Ross
Perot, you understand that if you vote for a third-party candidate, you're really just becoming a spoiler vote. You're not going to get any real kind of traction with that candidate, because the political party system has, in fact, got a monopoly on the way the politics work in this country.
Well, yeah, the duopoly monopoly.
A duopoly monopoly, yeah.
Thank you. You put it well. Yeah, and as I said, the plurality system is really lousy, and there are votes that rank your approval, which ones you approve more. Like, so if you voted for the third party candidate as number one, and you know, that was your first choice, you wouldn't be throwing it away because your next choice would be your preferred party. And the candidate from the other party you don't like, you throw them at the bottom, and your vote is going to count. So I think there are election systems, voting systems that rank not only your approval, feelings of approval, but disapproval. I mean, I think it's a much more representative and a stronger measure of public opinion.
And that's what we're going to play in the next episode,
Right.
is all the different types of political voting systems. But
Right.
today we're just introducing the subject of the politics industry and
Right.
Catherine Gell and the idea that she's not real happy with the way the politics world is working, and we're not really happy with the way the politics world is working.
Quite unhappy. And as you learn more alternatives, or what Catherine calls innovations, honestly, for me, it's even made me more unsatisfied with our political system and more hopeful for what we could achieve as a nation.
And quite frankly, living in Klamath County the way we do, we see it from all of our neighbors as well. Is quite frankly, we have a lot of conservative people around here, and
70%.
70% conservative in the county here, and they don't really feel that their votes are mattering. They don't really feel that anybody other than Donald Trump is going to save them. And quite frankly, I don't really think Donald Trump is going to save them either. But hey, you can believe what you want to believe. That politics is politics. But the thing is that that is why we have such disinterest in the political system. That is why we don't really take interest in this, because quite frankly, nobody feels like their vote even matters.
Yep. To put it in kind of the perspective I've taken, Donald Trump is promising to save 40% of the country against the rest of us, and Harris is promising to save democracy for the rest of us. And in either case, it's going to be kind of one side oppressing the other, and that's not what our founding fathers had in mind. Sorry, I'm going back to becoming Jefferson or something.
Hey, and actually, I didn't read this book, but I am reading a book about John Adams right now, and I just finished a passage where he was talking about the political system that was developing back during the day in the first couple administrations of the United States, and he didn't like it at all. And quite frankly, he said that is going to be the undoing of America, is the political systems, is the political parties. And quite frankly, I think we're seeing it now. That, quite frankly, nobody thinks Congress listens to a word they say. Nobody thinks the president listens to a word they say. Quite frankly, even the state legislatures, we feel like we're really kind of isolated from. Nobody believes any politicians anymore. So we have this apathetic American populace that's being overlorded by a political class of people. And whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they're just not talking to us, correct?
Well, I have more empathy for the politicians. If a politician takes a position, they can be sure they're going to be hammered by 30% of the population, and that's going to, or 10% or whatever it is, and they're going to be the most motivated on that side, and it's going to arouse the other 10. It's just set up for conflict. It's what promotes things. So it's a lousy time to be a politician. When the country's divided and you represent the country.
Well,
there you are.
So let's deal into history a little bit right now, because everybody loved Roosevelt, the FDR, back in the day. There's this massive swell of American faith in the government during the 40s.
My grandfather didn't like Franklin Roosevelt, took us off the gold standard. My grandfather was a banker. Oh, he was horrified. But then he loved Teddy Roosevelt, I'm sure.
but I mean, what is it? Why have we lost faith in the American political system? And that's I think one of the questions I'd like Gell to answer, if she ever got into that, is why has the American public really said, you know what, it doesn't matter?
Well, because what you've just said, it doesn't represent us, really. It represents fighting the worst of the other side of us. It's not looking for, it's this propaganda and division is what sells. It's what catches on. It's what gets us motivated. And we just got to say, enough of that crap. I want to, I know some people, I've made an effort to reach out to people. Okay, I guess I'm a libertarian. I don't know, liberal or whatever. Actually, the division between libertarian and liberal is not as great as you would think. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But it's just funded and operating and motivated by division and conflict. That's rather than trying to understand each other and reach out.
So basically, January 6th was a blown-up version of the inner conflict that is in all politics.
Yeah.
And they took it to an extremis.
Well, we're victims. We've been victimized.
A lot of people think the January 6th people were victimized, even the people among the January 6th protesters, because, quite frankly, they believed in what they were being told.
No, they believed that the election was stolen. And if I believed the election was stolen by either side, I'd be angry too. I mean, if that's what I believed, of course you're pissed off if you think the election was stolen. Of course you're going to get radical, revolution, whatever.
And those borderline ideas about the election being stolen because the electoral system didn't work, or the election tallies were not real, or whatever, came from social media.
Well, the evil people on the other side.
So it all comes back to social media as the big evil.
Yeah, and then of course when Clinton lost in 2016, it was the evil Russians who, with Cambridge Analytica, came in and influenced people. Whatever. It doesn't. I really believe in terms of political violence as a consequence of the election next month. I couldn't predict which outcome would produce the most violence and outrage. I mean,
well, and I'm of the opposite opinion. I don't think we're going to have a lot of violence at all.
I hope,
because
I
think what's going to happen. I think what I'm seeing happening with the American populace is that they're just tired of fighting. They're just sick and tired of fighting. And there's been a bunch of studies where, 70 or 80%, 90% of the populace say they don't care about politics. They just care about paying their mortgage, getting their kids fed, and getting to their job every day. And if Donald Trump wants to win or Kamala Harris wants to win, fine, it doesn't really affect me. And that's where we're at as a system now, is that they don't feel the political people are even affecting their daily lives anymore. And that's going to be wronger than the truth.
Well,
but
first
that's
of all,
what a lot of people feel.
I think they're lying to themselves and to others. They care about politics. Everybody, politics and religion are pretty much the same. If you're not, wars have been going on over politics and religion for tens of thousands of years.
But we had that was it Mrs. What's her name was the etiquette lady. She said we don't talk about politics, religion, or sex at dinner tables and such.
Well.
So, I mean, we've done this as American cultures. We're not supposed to talk about it in public company. We're not supposed to lead with that. Well, and quite frankly, you mess up that all the time because you start with your politics thing all the time.
Oh yeah, but there's a way to do it where you're going in ready to have a fight and win versus trying to figure out what the other person really believes and thinks. And my background is in criminal justice, and a year or so back, I kind of had this insight, I guess you would say, and I used to do kind of like forensic interviews with criminals, meaning I tried to figure out which ones were dangerous and which ones weren't. Well, most people aren't, even the most highly motivated politically, they don't want a war. Let's figure out what they think, what their values are. We all have the same values, like the level of care and what justice means and who should be getting what advantages. But we just have different interpretations of them. We all have the same values and morals. They're just different perspectives on them. And both perspectives have value and merit. I believe if we just stopped, considered what the other person was saying, we would see that.
And one of the ways we can stop doing that is if everybody got to vote for somebody and they saw their vote matter.
Yeah.
And get them re-engaged in the political process, which is why we need some kind of election modification so
Right.
that we don't have closed primaries anymore. We have open primaries, and we have a way to get a third-party candidate alive.
Yeah, if hardly anybody's going to vote in a primary election, we got to do something different. I mean, anyway, and the book covers that really well, and I think we have too. So, plurality voting, we jumped into that. We'll talk more about the flaws with plurality voting. We already discussed the obvious one, which is you don't get to say any more than the one person against the person you fear the most, or for the person you want the most, and nothing else. You got no other voice in it. It's just not. It's not powerful enough. It's not representative.
You know what
enough.
you're doing right now? You're teasing the next episode. Good job.
Well,
Good job.
That's not my fault. You keep taking me there.
Well, then I think we're right about a half hour right now, so we can probably wind this thing up. But, so what are we doing next time on this? We're going to talk about types of electoral processes, yes. And
Right.
we're going to talk about the problems with plurality voting, which
Yeah,
is...
we'll talk about that. And do somewhat of a dive into, the different voting systems. I forget what I called one of them. The approval, level of approval, disapproval, and the ranked choice system has some real flaws in it. I think there are better alternatives that we'll discuss.
So if you live in Oregon, you're going to want to watch catch our next episode, because, quite frankly, we're going to explain ranked choice voting to you and why it is the wrong thing for Oregon. It's also wrong, apparently, for Alaska and Maine.
Well,
So we're going to fix everything in the entire United States. We're going to fix with this show.
I believe that ranked choice is better than what we've got, the plurality.
Well.
But there are some pretty serious flaws with it, and there are more intuitive, simpler types of voting that don't have as many flaws, star voting and the approval voting systems and other things. But we'll get into that later. But I just wanted to say my belief is that the star voting system is the best, and it could eliminate primary voting, primary elections, and we just have all the candidates there one swell FOOP, and we ruled out those that we don't want, and we've identified who we do want.
And that is coming up next time on
Right.
the Chuck and Chris Show. Or is it Chris and
The
Chuck?
Chris and Chuck Show. Or
Either way, whatever.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be here next week, and we're going to be talking about political systems and electoral systems and all that other good stuff next week. We'll probably also talk a little bit more about this politics industry book by Catherine Gell. Chuck, it's been such a pleasure doing this with you. I hope that you've enjoyed watching it. And we will...
Or listening.
Or listening, if you're listening.
Or both.
We're going to get this up on all the podcasting networks. We're also going to go out on YouTube, and then we're also going to be putting this on our community television channel that we get up and set up and going.
Okay.
So if you want to get involved in this, you can get us. Where do we want to set them to Kiva's Corner, or where Klamath TV?
Well, we'll put it on the next slide. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Kiva, I got my phone number is 541-591-1921. If you're interested in working with us or doing your own podcasts or contributing to this in any way, send me a text. When would be a good time to call you back and talk about it? And we have Sugarman's Corner website, and what else? We have something else on community TV too, right?
We have KlamathTV.org is the website address for Klamath TV. My website is ChristopherGerman.com. And you can always get me at info@thechartedlife.net is my email address. So we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get your thoughts and feelings on this. And we do hope that you're enjoying this program. And you'll join us next week when we talk about more politics.
And there's Kiva's Corner at gmail, kivascorner.com.
So, for Chuck and Chris and Chuck, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
The Chuck and Chris Show is a Charted Life production. Thank you for watching.